Hi guys, welcome back to the Wolf Sister Reviews channel. So today we're talking about a couple different things. So before we get started, go ahead and remember to like and subscribe down below.
Yeah. And as well, we've also actually turned our videos into a podcast, and you can find that on Spotify right now only. And that's under the Wolf Sister Reviews. So if you prefer to listen instead of watch, check us out there and see which one you prefer.
Anywho, I'm Jess Wolf, if you forgot. This is my sister.
Hi, Minnie.
So today I watched How I Met Your Father. I watched How I Met Your Father because I loved How I Met Your Mother. I understand it's not supposed to be a spin-off, I guess. However, that is what got me to watch it because I was interested to see how they were going to show how she met, in this story, how they met the father. So,
Yeah, so was it like so it obviously wasn't spin-off. When I heard about it, I thought that it was going to be the backward. So like, you know how Ted, his name's Ted,
yes,
in How I
Ted.
Met Your Mother. So I thought that it was going to be the opposite and how
how the
mother met Ted, right? So
Got
I
it.
thought that it was going to show her life and her journey to finding Ted, but
like her side of the story kind of thing.
But then, I'm guessing that's not what it was.
No, this is a whole new set of characters, a whole new group of young people. They're really trying to modernize the show. But I think they're not only are they trying to modernize it, I think they're trying to change it from like just a full on like comedy special, like fun, ridiculous type show to addressing like serious issues. Like they really like spend time addressing like real stuff.
Yeah.
That part was a little difficult for me. Like, because some of the stuff they put in this show, so for starters, I love the cast. Love the cast. That's also what got me to watch it. Is like I love HIlary Duff. Is that her real name in real life?
Yeah, how did she do in this one? Like,
she's great. Like,
I haven't seen her since what, Lizzie McGuire days. So
yeah, I haven't seen her since Younger. I loved her in Younger.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
Great show. And this one, she definitely like doesn't play as much of a tough girl, like strong female character as she did in Younger. But she still does a great job playing the protagonist. So she's the main character. And then Piz from Veronica Mars plays the main character that's the guy. I'm a huge Veronica Mars fan, so I was excited to see him in this role. The rest of the supporting cast, I recognized Valentina. She was from, God, that old, like, ridiculous, like, tween show, where she's pregnant, like, all the time. What is it called? I think it's actually called, like, teenage pregnancy or I don't know, I forget it, but it was really, like, teenager tween type of show, but I'll admit that it was one of my guilty pleasures. And Valentina, who plays Valentina, she was on it. And I think she's just gorgeous. So I was excited to see her too. Then it started out okay. I got bored really fast because they would swap between these extremely like dorky moments. Like that I was like, oh, it's a comedy, it's fun, it's just these short little like comedy, but then they'd go from that to like really serious stuff. And I don't know I guess they did that in How I Met Your Mother, but not to that extreme, I guess. So it was kind of made me uncomfortable. I also feel like they didn't spend enough time letting you connect with the characters. But maybe that's just the norm these days. Maybe that's what younger generations are used to. Maybe that's what it looks like. And that's why so many shows are changing it to be like this.
Okay.
Like, I don't know, because everything happened fast. I mean, including being in a serious relationship, except for HIlary Duff's character. Everything moved fast. Everybody was either like in love or not in love, or living together the second they were in love, which was the same day or the next day. They had the coin like comedic lesbian who was just supposed to be like comedic relief. I felt really bad for her character the whole show. I felt like she deserved so much more than she got. They had the coin British guy who was supposed to just come in and be like some sort of comic relief and be like, create some diversity. But I was, again, disappointed with what they did with his character.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So with like How I Met Your Mother, there was what, 5 main characters? Because you had
Marshall,
Marshall,
Lily,
Lily,
Barney, Ted, and Robin.
Lily. So the married couple. We'll just
Yes.
call them the married couple, and then Barney, Ted,
And Robin.
and Robin. So there were only 5.
Mm-hmm.
So how many were in this one? Was it like was it like a direct correlation from How I Met Your Mother, where there were only 5 people?
No, there's more like, okay, we got HIlary Duff's character and then Piz's character. I don't know his real name. Sorry, guys. Then we have the guy who owns the bar and his wife, and then, or should I say fiance? So they're kind of like the Marshall and Lily of the band. And then,
Okay.
then we've got the lesbian sister, who's the sister to the Piz character.
Okay.
Then we have the British guy.
So 6.
And then we also have Valentina,
So 7.
who is the best friend of the HIlary Duff character.
So 7. That's a lot more.
And then, yeah, so 7.
Okay.
Because how many, yeah, they make it to where, like, everybody's a couple except for the lesbian sister. She, like, never gets to couple up.
Okay. So is there, like, are the like, did they find, obviously there's 7 instead of 5,
right.
But, like, was there any correlation to, like, oh, this character is the Barney of the group, or is this is the Ted of the group, or...
I think Piz's character is supposed to be like Ted, and then HIlary Duff's character is supposed to be like Ted also.
Okay.
And then I feel like Valentina is supposed to be more like Robin. And then the British guy, I think, is supposed to be like a Barney, but he's not so misogynistic, and like he doesn't treat women like, which I think, again, they're trying to modernize it. They're trying to make sure they don't have that toxic personality person in there, like, because
Okay.
Barney's clearly toxic and, mistreats everybody, like women especially.
Yeah.
And so, but then, I forget his name. If it's Rahaj, I can't remember. It might be Rahaj. Maybe, is it? Guy who owns the bar, him and his girlfriend are supposed to be like the Lily and Marshall of the group.
Okay.
And then, the lesbian sister just, I think, is just thrown into the bunch.
Okay.
And
I might be jumping ahead, but like, did it feel like it's something where there's going to be another season, like the way that it ended? Did she meet the father?
They're supposed to be. They're supposed to be, because at the beginning of the show, she starts off just like how Bob Saget's telling the kids, like, here's how I met your mother. It all started long ago. I have to tell you this. Well,
Okay.
It's Kim Cattrall, who's from Sex and the City. She's the Bob Saget of the show. And so she's sitting in, but instead of showing the kids on the couch, it shows her on the couch and telling her son, like, because they're on video cam, she's telling her son the story of how she met his father.
Okay.
And so it starts out with her telling a story. The first episode is telling about this one night. And then ultimately it turns out she met the father that one night. So at the end of the episode, they say, and that's the night I met your father. So then you're wondering what of the 6, there was like 6 guys total, I think, that she met in that episode. So you're wondering, like, okay, which guy is going to end up being his father? Because now it's narrowed down to 6 people, and it's not just like...
And I don't remember in How I Met Your Mother, I know there was like 13 seasons.
10.
It was a lot of seasons.
Yeah,
I remember that. But like, did they ever say that? Like, to where it kept you guessing in the beginning in like the first season where they're like, and that's the night I met your mother?
No.
Because I remember with How I Met Your Mother, she didn't even look familiar from any other episode that we had ever watched.
Nope, because he had never met her. He had always had little pieces in episodes where they crossed paths without knowing it. Like he dated her roommate one time, but he never actually met the roommate. He heard all about the roommate and what she was like, but which ended up being his wife later, but he never got to meet her, so he didn't know it was her.
Right.
Like he accidentally took her umbrella at one time, but never met her, so he never knew it was her umbrella that he took. Okay, so like stuff like that, but you never really met her.
So in this one, they were basically like
giving you all your options.
You saw 6 people, and one of those is who she's going to end up with.
Yes, but in my opinion, of the 6 guys they showed, there's only 2 men that aren't attached already. because Piz character was not attached. He was, and then the other guy at the very start was getting engaged to his wife, the Marshall and Lily character. So I mean, they kind of set it up to where it's like, well, it couldn't be him. I mean, unless they're
Right.
really going to put some strange twist on this long-term loving relationship and have him break up and he falls in love with her. But
Yeah.
so he was already paired off. The British guy was already paired off with Valentina in the beginning. They met in the very beginning. So I was like, well, there's two down. And then the third guy was Piz, right? So Piz is an option. And then she went on a Tinder date with this guy, had a super good first date. So I really think they want you to think it's this guy
Okay.
that's going to be the father. But then he ends up leaving to Australia for work. So they decide to not pursue anything. And then the season ends with that guy coming back and moving home and like showing up at her gallery because her friends helped her get this gallery opening. She took like a photo of the Piz character and like it got noticed. And so she was in this gallery opening and all of a sudden that guy shows up. And then that's kind of how it ends.
Okay. So based on what you watched and what you saw, do you think she ends up with the first guy, the guy
I think
at the
she's
end,
supposed to
or
end
is
up
it
with
Piz?
Piz's character. I think ultimately that's who she's supposed to end up with. That they kept foreshadowing to that. I think they did go on an actual date. I think in this season, it was towards the end, and then I can't remember if they decided not to take it, or they were just like, let's take it slow, let's not move too fast. And then what was it? Oh, his ex-girlfriend who he had or his ex-fiance, because he had proposed to her and then
Hmm.
got shut down. Well, she reappears in the picture. So then the HIlary Duff's character's worried, like, well, if she came back and asked you to go, like, you should go, like, this on tour or whatever, because it's a dream of his. So she
Mhm.
basically encourages him to follow his dreams. Like, they go down to that bar once, and it's,
But I thought you said that guy was a bar owner. Is it
yeah, of
not
a
the
different
downstairs?
bar. No, it's a different
Oh.
bar somewhere.
Well, so they
Um,
still hang out at a bar.
Yeah, they still hang out at a bar. I guess that's the same too.
Okay.
But when she runs into Robin, it's because she was upstairs talking to Piz, I think. Sorry, guys. She was upstairs talking to Jesse, and then she leaves and she's all like torn on what to do in the Jesse situation.
Yeah.
And so she goes down to the bar, and sure enough, at the end of the bar, where Barney's usually sitting to pick up women, Robin's sitting there
Oh.
listening to her kind of like her little pity party. So Robin decides to talk to her and basically help her out through this tough time that she's having and help her figure out what to do. And it was the greatest moment. It was worth watching the rest of it because you got to hear her talk about Ted. You got to hear she didn't say
Oh.
Ted's name,
Yeah.
but she talked about Ted. She was like, I once met a guy who told me he loved me on the first date. And, like, I wish, if I could go back and do certain things, I would have done them differently. You can't hold your feelings inside, basically. You should, if you feel like you need to, you have feelings to share, then share them, go and do something about it. Don't wait. Don't be like me. I waited far too long. And so she kind of hints, sorry, not foreshadows. She kind of hints to the fact that her and Ted are still a thing. Like,
Oh.
because if you remember how season 10 ended, his wife, the mother, had died
Oh
and
yeah.
they'd been apart for a long time, but then he comes back to New York and and it ends with like him like knocking at the door and beeping for Robin's apartment, and Robin looks out the window and looks down at him, and they both just kind of know like it's time, it's our time to be together.
Okay.
And so she kind of hints that they're still together. And so that was just the best part for me because I was waiting for her to like go out. Because she said something like, somebody's coming to pick me up, or I'm waiting for somebody to come pick me up, so I gotta go. So I was waiting for them to show who picks her up, and it's like Ted, pops his head out the window or rolls the window down or something. I was really excited to see like if it was Ted picking her up or what, but it didn't happen. But it was still just so awesome. I loved it so much. The other things that they did kind of also mention that was from How I Met Your Mother was Goliath National Bank,
Oh,
which
okay.
Barney works for. So I guess it's Ellen, who's the gay sister. She ends up getting a job at Goliath National Bank, so it was kind of funny. So
Okay.
they mentioned that. The captain's in it, and his part was hilarious because he was middle-aged in How I Met Your Mother,
Yeah.
and he has aged so well, guys. I mean, he looked fantastic. He looked like he hadn't aged at all.
And remind me who he is from How I Met Your Mother?
Kyle McLaughlin.
Nope. Doesn't ring any bells.
Doesn't ring a bell. he plays the voices of tons of characters on like anime, but he also plays in Sex and the City. He's Charlotte's husband. You remember who I'm talking about now?
Yeah.
So in this,
But
he's still called the captain. That's how I recognize him, because in How I Met Your Mother, everybody always called him the captain. And he was.
I'm trying to remember him from How I Met Your Mother.
I'm trying
Did somebody date him?
I'm trying to remember how they were connected, because I can't remember if it's because Ted worked with him, but he was engaged to a really young woman, like a much younger woman. And I can't remember if Robin dated him.
And he was the boats guy.
He's the boats guy. Yeah.
Okay,
Boats. He loves his boats.
Yeah.
I think Robin dated him. Okay. He ends up marrying the blonde, I think. In fact, I think it's the same blonde from How I Met Your Mother. But he ended up marrying her. So in How I Met Your Father, he's actually divorcing her. Oh, it was so hilarious, because he was so sad, but then he was like, it's okay. Like, he wanted to make sure she had everything she needed. And then she's like, I don't want any of those things. I just want your boats. So it was just like this little blurb of them in there.
Okay.
But it was still fun to see them in there again.
So there was some crossover, just not maybe with some of the characters that you would have wanted.
Yeah.
Like, if I was to watch it, I would have wanted to see Marshall. Because I loved Marshall. Like, whether it was Marshall and Lily or just one of the two, I would have loved to see those two in this, like instead of Robin. Not that Robin was probably bad or like a good cameo for it, but I feel like I would have preferred like Lily and Marshall for like advice giving, because to me they had the perfect relationship. They had a great How I Met Your Mother.
They did have a great relationship. I did, and I missed it. Like, the characters had such big personalities. Like, that's what I love about How I Met Your Mother, is like each of them they're different, but they have such big personalities. And in this one, they were all just kind of blah. Oh, we did get a question answered. I wrote this down, but forgive me, I might have to look up and see exactly what the scenario was. But I think it was the question we got answered from How I Met Your Mother was, where did Ted get that effing pineapple from that one episode, when he's telling a story and there was some pineapple involved, and you never ever find out where the pineapple came from.
Yeah.
I think they foreshadow in
this
one in How I Met Your Father, when they're doing the flashback to one of the scenes with the captain, there's like pineapple sitting, like just randomly sitting in the scene. And I think that something happened in relation to that, or to him, on the night he can't recall, with the pineapple, and I think that's where he got the pineapple. I think they were trying to tell us, like, this is where Ted got the pineapple.
So how did you like it overall? Did you feel, I guess what I'm hearing from you is the beginning was really slow. You couldn't connect with very many people, but it sounds like that one episode, like the one episode with Robin.
Yeah, basically, if I was to rewatch this, I'd watch the first episode and the last, because the first and the last really is all that I needed to see. You do get to see, again, that horrible with names. I know her stage name, Emily Prentice from Criminal Minds. She plays HIlary Duff's mother.
Okay.
I keep
Does
saying
she do
Hilary
a good
Duff.
job in this? I love her as an actress.
I love her too. Like, I adore her. She plays. It's a different character for her. I'm not used to seeing her, because you've seen her in Friends too, right?
Yeah.
She plays a character who's supposed to be kind of like a slutty mom, basically.
Okay.
And I use the word slutty casually just because that's how I mean it. I just mean, like, she's very casual, and promiscuous with men. Doesn't really stay in anything too long. Hasn't set a good example for her daughter, because her daughter's always having to clean up her mess because her mom just kind of makes a mess and runs away.
Okay.
But she did it well. I mean, I love her. She's just the cutest. So I did like that part, but I still, again, didn't need to see it in order to like know anything else about the character. You do, if you wanted to know what happens with Valentina and the British guy, again, sorry for calling him British guy, I don't remember his name. Then you do have to watch more than the 2 episodes. But honestly, their relationship moves in such a weird way. I mean, at one time they're moving at a healthy pace. The next second she's like, you know what? I decided, I don't want to move slow anymore. I want to move extremely fast. Let's have babies. And he's like, I don't want children. What do you mean? Like, where's this coming from? And she's like, well, I do. So I guess we shouldn't be together. I mean, it's almost like I don't know. But they didn't play it out in a way that was like she was trying to sabotage the relationship, because that didn't seem like that. It just seemed like they were finding a way to break them up, I guess. Because it started out like they jumped into a relationship really fast
Mhm.
because they met somewhere, and all of a sudden, like after one date, they're living together in her apartment, and then he's out trying to find his own apartment. He finds an apartment with Ellen. During this whole time, him and Valentina are just, moving pretty slow. Like they're going through typical relationshipy stuff. He's trying to figure out who he is. She's trying to figure out who she is, what she wants out of life,
Mhm.
but not really spending a lot of time on the soul searching part. Just kind of like they were just kind of like carried through the show. And the only other thing I have to mention about it is that they, as far as modernizing it, I love the things that they decided to address. Like they made sure it was very much like multiracial, multicultural.
Mm.
I really appreciated the fact that they were representing women in a positive, no body shaming, no shaming for the type of lifestyle they wanted, any of that. Like that was really good. I really appreciated that, but
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't watch it again. What about you? Do you think you'd give it a try? Did you like How I Met Your Mother?
Oh, I loved How I Met Your Mother. I think I've watched this like the whole thing multiple
Oh
times.
yeah, so have
But
I.
I love the cast of that.
Me
And I
too.
think that they really sell it and make it fun. But
Even
they
with
also have
right,
serious
right.
moments
We
and
know Barney's a dick. I mean, we know he's a womanizer. We
yeah.
know,
But
but
I
it's
love him nonetheless. Like
yeah. It's a show, guy. Like it's a
yeah.
show. It was a
But you would say,
comedy. It was
Barney,
hilarious.
if they made it today, people might not be so much for it. Like
No,
some
they.
people
I
could
don't.
see Barney as a toxic personality.
He is. He's super toxic, and
But
he's a womanizer, and he's controlling, and he
yeah.
only dates certain kinds of women, and he preys on them, and he manipulates them,
I
and
think I might watch, like the episodes you're talking about, like the first and the last, just to kind of see
if you like those
what
two,
it's
maybe
like.
explore the other
Right.
episodes.
Yeah. Like I would have to try it out just to see if I'd like it. But if I feel like I would like it more if you said that it took place in the apartment a lot and took place in the bar downstairs a lot. And it kind of gave me the same feeling of How I Met Your Mother. The fact that it still takes place in a bar is just not the same bar. Maybe I could get okay with that, but
Their storylines are just bigger and more and deeper, whereas the storylines in How I Met Your Mother were just corny and silly and funny. And even if they had bigger storylines going on, there was always something small going on in that episode. The episode was very like geared towards a specific point.
okay.
And so
Well, maybe I'll give it a try,
you
and
should
maybe
try
I'll
it
tell you next time that we make one if I watched it, and
and give us just a little
yeah, just a small like whether I
summary.
liked it or whether I
Yeah,
didn't.
what you
Okay.
thought about it. So, what
Okay.
about you? I know we did this a little different this time. What did you watch?
Okay, so the show that I watched was actually an anime. It's called Bofuri, and
Bofuri.
yeah, and it's got a longer title, but Bofuri is basically the name, and then I think it's I don't want to get hurt, so I'm gonna max out my defense. So a lot of
That's what the
anime
word
that
means?
no, that's the title of the show. I don't want to get hurt, so I'm gonna max out my defense.
Oh, serious? That's a long name.
Yeah, well, you'll find that a lot with anime.
Okay. So it should be said, I just don't know a lot about anime. I have
Yeah.
a good friend who loves anime, and obviously Minnie likes anime.
Yeah.
So I will do my best to ask the right questions here to learn more about what she watched.
Yeah.
But I might need your guys' help. Like,
So
give us some pointed questions.
so with
What was it about then?
with
You said the title was pretty long.
yeah, and like it pretty much sets it up for what the show's about. So in summary, it's a girl and her friend who are waiting for a new RPG MMO to be released.
Okay.
It gets released, and I think her name is Kanade. That's her real name, but she calls herself Maple in the video game.
Okay.
But anyway, it's like a VR. So they put on like a headgear, they put on little hands, and then they actually get to interact and do the video game.
Okay. So the show is about these two characters playing a game.
Yeah, playing a video game. So
Okay.
an MMO means that they go online and they're playing with people all around the world.
Okay.
An RPG means it's a role-playing game. You get to choose a class, and then you get to build up that class with whatever stats you want.
Okay.
So
Are they playing a specific game then?
yeah, it's called New World Online. That's the game they're
Okay.
playing.
Okay.
Well, her friend, I'm going to tell you their names based on their video game characters because it doesn't really talk about their real names as much. So Maple and Sally. Sally is used to playing MMOs. She's played video games her whole life. She has like little trophies and stuff from things that she's won by playing these video games. Maple has never played a video game in her life, but Sally has talked her into playing with her.
Okay.
So they both get the game at the same time, but Sally has to do homework because they're teenagers. They're in school. And so Sally's like, you get on, you start playing. I'll be able to catch up to you in no time. There'll be no problem. And so Maple's like, okay. And she's scared because she's never played a game before, but she goes in and it basically says like, choose your class. So she's scrolling through all the weapons to see what they do. And she finds a shield with a very small, it's supposed to be a sword, but it looks more like a dagger. And it basically says that you'll build for defense.
Okay.
So she's like, okay, I don't want to get hurt. So again, the title, I don't want to get hurt. So I'm going to max out my defense.
Okay. So
she gets in and she chooses this class. And it immediately gives her the ability to put in stats. So she can go into strength, agility, defense, and some other options. She's like, I genuinely don't want to get hurt. So she puts all of her points into defense first and foremost. Which, if you're used to playing an RPG, you don't want to do that. You want to kind of diversify it, put a couple points into strength, agility, defense, whatever.
Okay.
And so she goes straight into defense, meaning
this is the girl who's never played, so she's trying to play it right.
She just doesn't want to die. Right. Like that's her mentality is like, I don't want to die when I go in here to play.
Yeah.
So she puts all of her first points. I think it's only 5 points, but she puts all of them into defense. Making it so that she's very slow because she didn't put anything into agility. So she can't move fast, but she's also not going to die very quickly. So she basically starts out, she's got this really rickety, very basic shield and very basic sword. Well, she finds a character and she's like, excuse me, do you know where I can go to fight monsters so I can start to level up? And the girl's like, yeah, you go over to this forest, whatever. So Maple's like, okay, cool. So she goes out and she sees a little bunny. And she's like, oh, you're so cute. Well, she's like standing there and the bunny just keeps boom, boom, right into her. And she's like, it doesn't hurt. So literally for, I don't even know, it probably is like a good 30 to 45 minutes. She's just letting this bunny hit her and nothing's happening. Well, then
what else is happening in the show? If it's for 30 minutes, she's just sitting there letting it do
it's not a full 30 minutes, but it just, the way that time moves in an anime is like, it's light and then it's starting to like get a dusk kind of feeling.
Okay, so it changes aspects about the scene so that a lot of time has gone by.
Yes. So the bunny's still hitting her. Well, then something happens and she moves her shield. The bunny hits the shield and the bunny dies. Oh. And Maple just starts crying because she's like, no, the bunny died. So
where is this other girl? Like, when does she start playing?
Sally can't start playing because she has to study and she's basically grounded from video games.
So does she ever come to play with her?
Yeah, she does. So I think it's like...
So does this girl get good at the game before Sally gets there? Is that kind of the whole thing of the show? Is like Sally figures out how to... Maple figures out how to play this.
She doesn't even figure out how to play it. She still doesn't know how to play it even at the end of this season. She's just literally putting all of her points into defense.
So every episode is just her, like, learning how to play this game better?
Yes, and her getting so lucky, okay? Because it's a new game. The developers aren't expecting somebody to build a class where they go straight into defense and only put points into defense. So she literally maxes out her character in defense.
This sounds like something I would do on accident.
Right. And it's funny because
play these things.
Even then, like, she goes into a dungeon by herself and instead, she has no attack power. So she cannot do any damage.
Well, then what is she doing this whole time? How is that any fun? So if she's just like walking around this place doing nothing.
She can't die. She won't die. So she's just like literally sitting there taking all of these attacks and it gets her skills. And
so even though she's not doing anything, so to her, it's just like watching a movie. She's just like, I walk over here, this happens,
just standing there, and she's
get
just
points.
Watching it, and it's hilarious because she's just like, okay. But so in the dungeon she goes into, it's a Hydra, and it's poisonous. So it sits there and keeps poisoning her, and she has these little, they're like little vials of like refilling your HP.
Okay.
So they keep spitting poison at her, and she keeps using these vials for, reviving her HP.
Okay. What's HP?
Health points.
Oh, health points. Okay.
Yeah. So after a while, because she's getting poisoned over and over and over again, she builds up a resistance. So now she has resistance to poison. So now she's really not dying from this boss fight. So it grabs her, and it's got her like entwined in it. And she's like, she's literally cha, cha, cha. She's karate chopping this huge Hydra, thinking that she's going to do any sort of damage to it. Well, it doesn't do anything. So she starts to eat it. She starts to bite and eat off of this Hydra. And
you like some weird stuff.
it was like, to me, I was just like, what is she doing? Why did she decide to eat it?
But why is she even still playing this game when nothing's happening? And then what?
Yeah.
She comes across the thing and her character starts eating it?
So one, she ends up getting the skill of Devour because she decided to eat the freaking monster.
So of course she gets like some
So
like
she
cool
gets some cool
skill.
power. Well, she ends up putting the power into her shield. Instead of putting it like as something she uses on her body, she puts it into her shield. Well, then she also gets a whole decked out new garb, like new gear that she can wear, and that comes with a shield, and that's where she puts the power. Well, she also gets the skill of Hydra. So anytime she uses Hydra, this big Hydra comes out and spits poison all over all of, the people attacking her. So there you go. She has that. Well, then she basically is going through this video game, and she's getting skills that she shouldn't be getting. She literally is building straight for defense, and she just starts getting all these random skills. Well, she's telling Sally at school, like, this is what happened. And Sally's like, oh my gosh, I thought that I could catch up to you, but now you're breaking the game. You're building yourself a way that no one should build themselves in a video game. And she's kind of getting after me.
Well, yeah, because it sounds like boring.
Right. So she ends up coming in to play with her, and they're, Maple's trying to help Sally to level up, essentially. So they're, a lot of what Maple does is just kind of sit to the side while Sally levels up, and she's helping Sally get her stuff and whatever.
Okay.
Well, Sally's like anxious over the fact that Maple doesn't know how to play, and she gives her, tips of stuff to do because Maple just doesn't know what to do.
Right.
And Maple is clumsy, and Maple keeps finding things that she shouldn't be finding, and then ends up getting these skills, random skills that because of her defense, they turn into certain skills. And so she ends up getting all of these powers, and everybody's like, every time we leave her alone, she gets a new skill. We need to stop leaving Maple alone.
But why? Are they all just jealous?
Yes.
Okay.
Because she's level 20, and she can defeat level 70s because of these random skills she keeps getting. So everybody keeps talking about Maple, and they're like, she's basically a boss. She's basically a boss in this game that everybody has to try to defeat. So everybody keeps playing this game, trying to build their power so that they could one day defeat her.
Oh, God.
Because of everything that she's doing. It is so funny. So then she ends up creating a guild. But to her, she's playing for fun. She's not playing to be the best. She's not playing to do this.
Right.
She wants to make friends, and she just wants to play and have a good time. So she makes a guild. They buy a house. It's like this cute little tree house. And they're like, we need more people for our guild. So she's going out. She gets a guy named Karumo, and he's a defense build just like she is, but he doesn't max out like she does. He's got his points into strength and stuff like that. Okay. So she gets Karumo. She gets a girl named Ivy who's a crafter. Okay. That's all she does. She's not built to fight. She just crafts items, and she's basically whatever she builds is kind of her way of trying to help fight against the stuff so she can craft bombs. So anyway, with Sally comes in, and she puts points into strength and agility. So she's fast as fuck. Okay. Like, she can move and she can attack you faster than anything. But paired with Maple's slow. So a lot of the times, Sally will literally give Maple a piggyback ride so they can get somewhere faster because of how slow her movement speed is.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So
anyway, how does the season finish off?
So there's events in the video game. So the first event Maple does alone, and it's basically a PvP, everybody out for themselves.
Okay.
She gets third just because she defends herself. That's it. She doesn't have any offensive movement. But people are attacking her, and she has Devour, and she put Devour into her shield, so all she has to do is go like this, and the shield eats the person's attack. So she doesn't do anything. She literally just puts her shield out, and the shield does all the work for her. Well, then the developers put in a thing, in a rule, that her Devour can only have 10 uses now. Because she was so OP, they didn't think she could do that. So they had to go back and reprogram the system so that it wouldn't allow her.
She should be able to walk around devouring people if she wants.
So anyway, as they go on, they build this guild because the fourth event is a guild event, and they can't do it with the few people that they have.
Okay.
So they have Kuromu, who's that. They have Ivy, who's the crafter. They have Kasumi, who is like a samurai.
Okay.
So she also has agility, but she has more strength than agility.
So she meets these people throughout the season.
Yes, so she's meeting these people throughout, and they end up being friends.
Okay.
And so they create a guild. Well, then they meet this kid, Kanade, I think his name is, and he doesn't like what everybody else likes. He likes the puzzles of the game.
Okay.
So he ends up being some type of mage that he figures out all these puzzles, and he gets this cool thing that can store different spells in it. So that's what he uses. Anyway, so they go out looking for more guild members. And she finds these twin sisters. They are the cutest thing, May and Yui. Well, they're talking, and Maple hears them, and she's like, nobody wants us in their guild because we maxed out our strength.
Mm-hmm.
So they did the polar opposite of what Maple did. She put all of her points and stats into defense. They went straight into strength.
Okay.
They didn't put points into agility, defense, nothing.
Okay.
So Maple hears them talking, and she's like, hey, would you guys like to join my guild? And they're like, you want us? And she's like, yeah, why not? And they're like, well, we're low level, and we're maxed out on strength. And she's like, I don't see a problem with that. I maxed out on defense. So now she has two little girls that are maxed out on strength. She stands with them and is their defense. She's their tank. And they just obliterate everything with the strength that they have. And so she basically builds this guild full of unique players.
Yeah.
Players that max out certain things that they shouldn't be. And so her guild is only the 7 people, and they're taking on these huge guilds. And so the fourth event is the guild event, and that's the last 2 episodes. And they basically, it's like a capture the flag type of event. So they have this little orb, and they have to protect the orb. Part of the team has to protect the orb while the other team has to go out and try to get other people's orbs. So they leave Maple behind too, because Maple has a lot of skills by this point.
Okay.
Skills that they don't want anybody else to know about because it's kind of like their secret.
Oh, their secret weapon. Okay.
So they try to leave Maple behind at the base to defend while the people that have agility and strength and all of that go out. But they're capturing all this stuff, whatever. Well, at some point, Sally gets overrun. So she's been out all night trying to capture people's flags, so to speak, their orbs.
Okay.
Well, she gets exhausted. Because she's been just going all night, so she's exhausted. Well, one of the guilds finds her, and they've got her cornered, and she has pretty much no stamina left. And she sends a message to Maple, and she says, I might die. I'm so sorry. And Maple's like, what? So she's in the midst of what look like 100 different people from a guild. They're circling in on her, and she's doing her best to just fight off their attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right as she's kind of at this point where you think that she's about to get killed or defeated or whatever, Maple shows up in one of her skills. It's like a big old rocket ship that's like a gear. And she shows up and she starts attacking everybody. She's killing everybody around her. She goes down, puts on a new skill, which is like a guardian angel, meaning anybody that's within this bubble doesn't take any damage. So she goes down and surrounds Sally, and she's like, stay close to me.
Like I'm your bodyguard.
Yes, like I'm your bodyguard right now. So Sally's like, okay. Well, then they go back up in her little costume that's it's like a machine. and it has all these guns and all these things on it.
On Maple?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like Maple is the weapon now.
Okay.
And so they go up together and she just starts obliterating everybody around her and she gets Sally back to safety. Well, while she's getting Sally back to safety, another guild attacks their guild. And the two girls, the two little twins, are the only ones there to protect it. And they're like, we don't have any defense. Like, we get hurt, we're squishy. And so they're trying to defend it. Well, they send out messages to everybody. Everybody's outside fighting.
Okay.
These two little girls with big-ass hammers are the only ones left. And they're standing in there, and the guy comes in, and he's like, I could take you. And they're like, what do we do?
But I guess this is something I just don't get about these games is like, I'd have to learn how and why if you only have strength.
Yeah.
You may not have defense, but you have strength. So as long as they don't actually hit you, can't you hit them?
But if you
hit them first, then you could win, right?
If you have no agility, how do you
So you're telling me that if you don't get any agility at all, they couldn't even move?
They can move, but they can't move fast enough. If that person has agility with their attack, they can attack
so
you
if the
faster
other person
than you can move away.
Okay. So even though you have a lot of strength, it would be just harder for you to hit them.
It'd be harder for you to dodge them
and to actually hit them
because they can move from your attack.
I got it.
Right.
Okay, I got it. Too,
the end of it, like all the guilds are against each other. They're all trying to fight each other, whatever. Well, they find out about Maple's
unique abilities,
and one of them she uses is called Atrocity. It turns her into a legit monster, a legit boss. So she looks like this weird alien thing, and she tears apart a level 60, and he basically accepts it. He's like, okay, this was my fault. You did good. You hid this from me. I didn't know all your skills. So she takes him out. Well, then the rest of it is basically the top 6 guilds that survive this event get special points and whatever.
Okay.
That's pretty much what they're working towards. Well, they basically think about it. They're like, okay, well, what we could do is just take out everybody. And then we're basically going to be in the top 10. So we just we're number 6. And in order to stay number 6, we just have to take out everybody else so that we don't dip below that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they start doing that, and the other guilds that they've already defeated are like, you know what? That's not a bad strategy. So the 3 guilds take out all the other guilds so that they're the only 3 left in the event.
Narrowing it down.
And Maple can only use Atrocity once every day.
Okay.
So once she uses it, she's like, I'm not leaving this form. Like, this is the last thing that we had. This was my last special weapon. So she stays in the form of this monster and just starts traveling the entire map, taking out everybody.
So just using it as much as she can since it's the only time she gets it.
Yep. And so now these other guilds are like, we like her, but we want to get revenge on her because she screwed us up. Like, she took us out without hesitation, without, very little effort from her end. Mm-hmm. So they have this kind of like angst to be as good as her, but she's like, I just want to be friends. So they all friend her, and they're all friends with her in the game now.
Right.
Because they're like, you're actually a really cool person, and you didn't, you're just playing the game. You're not doing this out of like...
trying to overpower.
Right, but
So it sounds like you really liked it.
Oh, like, I loved this show. Again. I would so watch this again. It was so funny. Yeah, anime, I don't know, like, the atypical explanation of it, but essentially it's Japanese cartoons.
Like, does that mean none of it's in English?
Well, they like a lot of them will actually serve it in a sub or a dub. So it'll have it in like parentheses at the episode level, and it'll say this one's subbed or this one's dubbed. If you choose dubbed, every episode ends up being in English. But if you choose sub, it means subtitles. So they're speaking Japanese, but you have to read the subtitles. There are some that don't come dubbed at all.
So it must just be really well animated to be able to tell what's going on.
Yeah. Oh, it's like, so
do you listen to it in Japanese then?
I've gotten used to watching it in subtitles or the sub version where you listen to it in Japanese language, but you read the subtitles. And I can follow along with reading and watching, and I've gotten used to it, but it was really hard for me at the beginning. So I did have to watch the English version. However, in certain ones, there's a lot lost in translation. So the Japanese version will say it this way, and then you watch it in English and they won't say the phrases the same way. So there's a lot lost, and like a funny moment in the Japanese way wouldn't be funny in English.
So for any of our listeners, viewers, would you say that it's better for them to start out with the dubbed
I would
version?
say start with a dubbed anime, because then you can actually pay attention to the show, the cartoon in and of itself, and then try it out. Just try it. You don't have to watch it ever in sub, but try it out, because then you'll see the differences between watching it in English versus watching it with the Japanese language. But I like it either way. I just prefer to watch it in Japanese with the subtitles, because I feel like I'm getting more out of the story than I would when I'm watching it in English.
Okay.
But so, I mean, overall, I loved it, and I'd love to hear what you guys thought about it, if you've ever seen it, or if you end up watching it, because we talked about it. Definitely let us know how you felt about either Bofuri or
How I
How
Met
I
Your
Met Your
Father.
Father.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear back from you. We'd love to hear if you guys have anything you'd like us to watch.
Or what you think about what we watched so far.
Yeah, or anything. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, since we're not able to post a lot of content. We're both working moms, so we're very busy, and we'd like to post more content, but instead we're going to try and have more content in each episode, so there's more to talk about, so that we can have more conversations with all you got viewers and listeners out there.
Yep.
So, hope this grabs some more attention and can get some more conversations going. So, enjoyed being here with you guys. Stay
Yep.
shiny, folks.
Bye.